Hello, everybody. Akeem here again with the Grand Prairie Local Business Connection. Got a treat for you today. We got an interview with Alan Goff, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about his business and what he does, and how this COVID-19 is affecting him and what he could do to help you guys. So, Alan, welcome.
Akeem, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that you presented. Good on you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I guess we'll dive right in. You know, I got 6 basic questions, but we could go down a rabbit hole here, and that's okay.
Well, if you know me at all, Akeem, you know there's going to be a rabbit hole. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen.
That's right. I guess we'll start with, if you want to tell everybody, where are you from? Are you originally from Grand Prairie or from somewhere else?
Well, you know, I've been pretty much an Alberta boy most of my whole life, Akeem. I was actually born in Thompson, Manitoba, raised for the first couple of years in a little rural, farm out in Saskatchewan. But as far back as my memory can take me, I was raised in Alberta. I started even from, kindergarten. How old are you in kindergarten? 6? I think by the time I was 4, we had moved to Alberta. So southern Alberta, mostly Calgary, Brooks, Okotoks. And then my dad moved us up to Grand Prairie in 1977. I was in grade 7, halfway through the grade 7 school year. Now we came to Grand Prairie. My dad came to take advantage of the booming oil and gas industry and had been pretty much in Grand Prairie my whole life ever since. 42 years. 42 years in Grand Prairie. And I know it doesn't even look like I'm 42 years old, does it?
No, not even close. You're doing well. But isn't that how we all get started?
Give this massive shiny spot right here. It's like, man, you land a 747 on this forehead. Anyway, yeah, so I've been in Grand Prairie ever since. In January of this year, I went down to Kelowna. I had been some life changes, and I wanted to get somewhere where it was a little bit warmer climate. And so packed up all my stuff, and down to Kelowna I went. Joy in the warm weather down in BC, and it's great now. I say down in BC because I'm actually back up here in the Peace Country right now for a window of time. And so
the wine's not too bad either, I assume.
You know, I thought to myself, Akeem, and no offense to anybody, but it was in December. Late December of 2019, and I was out, like a lot of people, I was brushing the snow off the car, and I was chiseling the ice off the window, and I broke 2 ice scrapers in the same, ice scraping effort, and I got, it was just gonna tick me right off. And I went back inside after getting everything cleaned off and shoveling the driveway, and I was mad, and I was just in this foul mood, and I'm like, ow, whoa, what are you so foul for? And I realized I was just mad at cold. And that's not good. I don't want to be cold anymore. I've been here a long time. I instead of saving up some money to go on vacation for a couple of weeks somewhere nice and warm, why don't I live somewhere warm instead? And then if I want to be crazy enough to save up some money to go somewhere cold, I could do that. And I also realized that for my mental health and my emotional health and overall kind of a holistic view for me, I love the water. And I love to see the mountains, and it's serene, and it helps my soul stay calm and my spirit. And I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. And so I want to be able to see mountains every day. I want to be able to be by the water every day. And I want to have warmer weather. And I want my shoulders to relax. And I want the sun on my face and not have to be bundled up. And so down I went. I kind of have 2 homes. I realized, as strange as it is, after 3 months in Kelowna, I was missing Grand Prairie. I really was, and I was missing the people there. I thought I never would, but it sounds so bad. But I realized I was really missing. It's kind of like the dysfunctional family member that you see once you miss them. And so I came back to Grand Prairie, and I'm back here for a little bit. I'm kind of hiding out. I'm doing the COVID hideout out up here, and I back in Grand Prairie for Easter. And so when I on this interview, when I say here as far as Grand Prairie, that's kind of why I can say that.
You know what? I totally understand what you're saying. Like, you don't know this about me yet, but my parents are from Belize. So I'm the same way in a sense. I love being by the water and in the sun. But at the same time, I agree with you. There's a certain community here in Grand Prairie that is unmatched. Especially, I realize that coming from Ontario. not that Ontario's bad in any way, but I noticed here that, you know, in Grand Prairie, for example, on Facebook groups, moms will tell all the other moms about all the shady things when their kids walking to school and somebody's pulling up with a van, and they'll make sure the whole neighborhood knows about it.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody protects each other. Little things like that that I've never seen before I moved here. Right.
You know, you really nailed it there. And I've taken that for granted for years and years and didn't understand the value of that. There is something very, very different and special, but in a good way, about the people, not just in Grand Prairie, but I would say the Peace Country in general. Yeah. There's just something about the folks here, and it is good. It's really good. And there's some really good, I call them just great, good old plain old folks here. Yeah. And you know, you get to kind of get into a different culture, into a different city with a whole different climate, and you realize it's not the same everywhere you go. And the weather might be great, and the wine is fantastic, but the people are different.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
kind of good to come back and get plugged in.
Yeah, maybe it's just has to do with how people are. Like, we tend to take things for granted when it's easy, right? And I guess here, with everyone working in the oil field or jobs that take us away, yeah, you tend to value, I don't know, I don't even know if I'm right in saying this, but you tend to value your family a bit more, I guess. Yeah. But that's how I feel about it. That's how it was for me. But,
you know, I remember when we first moved to Grand Prairie as a family back in the late 70s, and, you know, somebody had coined the phrase, Grand Prairie, the greatest place to be. And I thought, what kind of stupid comment is that? There's got to be, come on, man. There's got to be better places than Grand Prairie, you know? And I thought, whoever named it Grand Prairie, it should be called Grand Pothole, you know, with all the potholes in our, but as I aged, as I get older, as I can reflect back and see this, man, my thinking was way out to lunch, you know? I just didn't get it. I just didn't see it. I can sure see it now. It's a good place. I mean, it's good people.
I agree with you. I've told people back from where I come from that, you know, Grand Prairie's got a lot of little gems. There are a lot of hidden gems in there that make it a community place that, to the untrained eye, if you don't really live here, you might miss just by driving through or passing through. But if you live here and you get to know the community and how people support each other, they support each other's businesses, they support each other. You know, when others are down and out, there's just a lot of community support here. So,
exactly. Yeah, you nailed it.
So moving on here, what is, if you want to tell everybody, what is your business and when did you start it?
Sure. You know, so not a goat trail, not a rabbit hole, but we're going to start this one down the road a little bit. So my current career, as we sit and speak, because I basically wear 3 hats. I'm a professional speaker, so I'm a keynote speaker, and I get to travel all over the place and get on the big platforms, and corporations and associations primarily hire me to come in and open a keynote or close the keynote on usually conferences and conventions and big seminars. And you know, I'm either there to get everybody all riled up and excited to start the weekend event, or I'm there to get them all fired up to go home after the event and implement all the stuff, right? And so I'm primarily a keynoter and motivational speaker. Second hat is I do corporate training workshops, and then I also am a coach. Now, I never got into this line of work to ever be a coach. I wanted to come into this line of work first and foremost to be a speaker, to be a professional speaker. Now, here's where I'm going to back up, Akeem. Okay. I'm a weird guy. If you know me at all, I'm a bit of an oddball, and I've always been an oddball. Here's why. I remember back when I was about 8, 9-ish years old, I knew that I wanted to grow up and be a motivational speaker. I was either wanted to grow up and be a motivational speaker or a preacher, a minister, one of those two. Now, I don't know about y'all, but back, especially in my generation, so, you know, I'm years old. I was born in the mid 60s, and you know, as a boy being raised in that era, most kids, you know, most boys, they want to grow up and they want to be astronauts. They want to be police officers and firemen, and they wanted to be, nowadays, maybe, you know, kids want to grow up and they want to be, celebrities or a sports star or something like that. Here I am. I wanted to be a motivational speaker, and like I said, or a minister. And so my parents would try to get me out of the house to go play with the kids outside, right? And because I would be sitting in front of the television, not playing video games like the kids do now, but I had an old cassette recorder. Kim, you're probably too young to even know what a cassette recorder is.
Oh no, I had one.
But I had, the old cassette recorder with the top load, and the big fat red button on it, and you had to press the record and the play button down at the same time. And then it was just one mono speaker, and it didn't even have a built-in microphone. That was later down the road. You had to plug the microphone in externally. Anyway, I had one of those. And I would sit in front of the television. Remember, that's back in the day when the television was, it was a big piece of real estate that sat in the living room. It was a giant. And I would sit with my recorder and my microphone, and I would hold it up to the microphone, the mono microphone on the black and white TV or whatever. And I would record anything that was some kind of speech or presentation. So it was usually either political, or in my family, growing up in a faith-based family, it was either the preaching channel that was, or it was the political channel or something. But anyway, I would record somebody talking about something, some speech or sermon, and then I would go into my room. This is where you think you're really going to think I'm nuts. I would go into my room. My dad had bought me this old used student's desk from a school somewhere, and I had it in my room, and I would sit there, and I would press play and then stop, rewind, play, stop, rewind. And I would manually, by hand, I would transcribe that speech or that sermon or that presentation. And I would catch every word, and I would write it down, and it would take me hours, and sometimes it would take me days.
Yeah.
And then if that wasn't weird enough, and then when I had it all on paper, I would rehearse it, and I would practice it, and I would memorize it until I had the whole thing right. And then I would give it to anybody who I could give it to, anybody that would sit and listen, which was usually nobody. And so I gave a lot of speeches, and I gave a lot of presentations, and I gave a lot of sermons to my sister's dolls and stuffed animals. And I always got really excited when the cat or the hamster would sit long enough, because then I had a live audience, right? But this was my idea of fun. This was what really got me going. And I knew that one day I was going to spend my life doing this. I just knew that. I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know really in what capacity, but I knew one day I was going to grow up, I was going to be a professional communicator, and I better get started now. And so, I didn't follow that dream for a long time. Growing up, and just as a normal boy, you're going through school. Spent most of my school years here in Grand Prairie, the Montrose Junior High School, which used to sit down where the Cultural Center is now, and then I went to the Comp High School, and then I spent one term at the GPRC. Yay, GPRC alumni here, And I remember when I got out of high school, Akeem, I said, I am never going to step foot inside another classroom as long as I live. I mean, I was the classic ADD, OCD, dyslexic kid. I had a hard time in school. School was not my thing. I was not the bright kid. I was a classic D student, Akeem, which means, and it sounds like I'm joking, but it's truth. I mean, if I didn't get a D, I got an F. I mean, if I got a C, is because I cheated for that C.
Well, you know what they say, right? You know what they say about those grades.
What's that?
The C and the B students end up working for the D students, and the A students wind up teaching.
There you go. So, and I remember I finished high school, and I graduated, and I got this certificate. I got my diploma. And I don't know how I made it. I really don't know how I made it. I think I just kind of got pushed along. Nobody wants the ADD dyslexic kid. But anyway, that's kind of the way it was for me. And I said, I'm never going to step foot inside another classroom as long as I live. And my dad says, good. That means you're going to go work for a living. If you're going to go for work for a living, you're going to come and work for me. Now, my dad, remember I said my dad moved us up here in the late 70s to go into he worked in an oil field. It was down in southern Alberta. He moved us up here to northern Alberta to take advantage of the big boom. And so I went to work for my dad, chasing welders down a pipeline. And I lasted about 6 months. And of course, maybe 8 months or something. It was less than a year. Went through that winter out in the bush and living in camps, and oh my Lord. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this is going to be the rest of my life, let me out now. Maybe I better go back to school. Maybe I better become something, and maybe I need an education. And so my dad says, well, then what do you want to do? Well, I knew that I either wanted to be a motivational speaker or a preacher, right? And every time I looked at maybe going into the ministry or going to Bible school or going to, something, it was just very obvious that was not the direction I was going.
Fair enough.
And I thought, how do I become a motivational speaker? I don't know how to do that. How does a northern Alberta redneck oil field guy become motivational speaker. And then even if I do, what am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? Is there any relevance? Who's going to listen to me? Do I have any credibility? I was like, nope. I don't know how to do that. And so I thought, I guess the next best thing in my mind was I'm going to be a school teacher. Oh my Lord, anybody that knows me, could you imagine me teaching your kids? But anyway, I thought, well, it allows me to be at the front of a room, right, with an audience, if you will, and I'm inspiring and I'm motivating a future generation. I thought it's kind of the best fit I could find. And my dad says, well, that's a stupid idea. He says, if you want to have a family and raise children in the future, you're probably going to want to make a whole lot more money than what a school teacher does now. No offense to school teachers, I'm just kind of, that's kind of how that conversation went. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't know what to do. And he says, Al, it's the 80s. You know, I graduated high school 83 and from the comp. And I was in the Blackfoot tribe, if that's even politically correct to say nowadays. I don't know if they even have those anywhere at the school. But anyway, and so he said, you got to get into computer sciences, Al. That's the future. Well, I didn't have good enough grades to get into university, so I went to the GPRC. I went there for a term, and I did my academic upgrading, and I got my grades up and high enough, and I went to a private institution in Edmonton at the time. It was called Computer Career Institute, and I went there for 5 years, and I got this technical diploma. Really, I guess that's really what it is in computer sciences, majoring in computer sciences and minoring in organizational behavior, and I learned how to work with computers, and I hated it. I hated every moment of it. Akeem, I still remember when my convocation ceremony and my professor, who I just hated this guy. We bucked heads, and I made life hard for him, and he made life hard for me. And anyway, he's standing there in all his regality there, and he's got my degree or whatever, and I'm walking across the stage, and he hands it to me with this hand, and he reaches across with this hand to shake my hand, and then he pulls me in close, and he says, are you ever going to do anything with this? And I said, never, and I walked away. And I've never used it a day in my life. I've never been in the computer industry at all. But I thought, well, this is what somebody thought would be a good idea for me. Now I'm telling this story for a reason, Akeem, because you said, well, hey, it's my story, it's my show, I can tell but it has a point, and I want the listeners to get this point. See, this isn't just an interview, this is a teaching time for you, okay? And here's why I'm saying that. Oftentimes, we have a dream inside of us. We have an ambition inside of us. Oh, I want to be this, or I want to do that. I want to be this, I want to do this, I want to have that, I want to help with this, right? We have this dream inside of us. But oftentimes, we don't know how to get there. And we shouldn't know how to get there. All you got to know is why you want it. And I say, if you already know how to get to where you want to go, then it's not a big enough dream. Yeah. So anyway, we have this dream inside of us. I want to become this. I want to do this. I want to go in this direction. And I didn't know how to get there. So somebody else, and it's usually family. It's usually our mom or our dad or our grandparents or our cousins or our uncles or aunts or even our own spouses. I mean, all I'm saying is just usually somebody who's closest to us. And they say, hey, you know what you should do? You should do this instead. You should go in that direction instead. You should go there. Mm-hmm. And we think, well, they must know better. They love me. They have my best interests at heart, don't they? They're older than me. They're wiser than me. They have more experience than me. So I guess I'll go do that thing. And unfortunately, we don't even realize it, but we relinquish our dream and we relinquish our goals to go in a direction that somebody else thinks we should do. And it sounds logical. And here's what I can guarantee you. When you go after a goal or a dream that somebody else thinks you should do or thinks you could do, mm-hmm. you will struggle to achieve that, likely. And you're right, it's somebody else's dream for you. And so we typically struggle to achieve that. And if we do achieve it, we typically struggle to maintain that. But for most people, they never fully achieve that because on a subconscious level, we kind of go on our journey to find some way to self-sabotage ourselves so we don't fulfill that. We say, well, it was never my dream for me anyway.
Right.
And it was and that was exactly what I did. And I think there's so many people, even people right now that are watching this, that could probably relate to that and say, I've done that. Or I know somebody, or I've done that to my kids or something like that.
So there's a couple points I want to hit there from what you've been saying for the last couple of minutes. And it's both what you're saying right now about internalizing that dream, that, if you're listening to somebody else tell you what to do, you're basically just following the dream that somebody else has for you. It's not yours. And I want to go back to what you were saying as well about when you were a child, you just knew deep down inside that you wanted to do something with public speaking or with the ministry or as a pastor, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
wouldn't you agree? Because I've had obviously different paths, but similar experience. So wouldn't you agree that it's not until you make that decision internally, and I mean not just by saying, oh, to your friend or to your spouse, I'm going to do this, but where it becomes the mind connects with the heart, and it's a determination that's meant, you don't necessarily know what the next step is, but you've just decided that you're going to do it. And when you set that intention, but the trick is, if you want to say God, I believe in God, but not everybody does. But regardless of that, whether you want to say universe or God or whatever, will test your decision, right? And
very much so.
And how much you actually mean what you're internalizing. And the only way to confirm that you've made the decision is by putting the action behind it, which you're saying to God or the universe or whoever with your actions that, yes, I'm doing this.
That's exactly right. You're right on the money. You should be teaching this stuff, man. Maybe I should take you on the road with me, and you can get on the platform with me. We can type this thing.
I wouldn't rule it out.
You wouldn't rule it out. But you're right on the money. And here's what happens as well, Akeem, is when we set our intention, say, okay, I'm going to move from going in this direction. I'm going to go in this direction. And by the way, I said a worthy goal is going after something we've never gone after before. Okay, yeah. If you've gone after that before and you've achieved something before, or you already know how to achieve that, that's just something that you should put on your to-do list. Just go do it. It's not a good goal though. But we set an intention, say, okay, I'm going to change my career, maybe going on a life journey change, and I'm going to go from this direction to this direction. So now I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm just going to think about it, but I'm going to set my intention by actually doing something about it. Here's what happens. Obstacles come our way.
Immediately.
People have this really weird, and I bought it for a long time. I think, well, if I'm going in the direction of my dream and I'm going to fulfill the destiny for my life and the thing that my calling in life, then it should be easy. Mm-hmm. It is not. It's not easy. You said something very accurate. You said, well, we're going to be tested in that. Mm-hmm. We're going to be tested. Guarantee we're going to be tested. Now, life is not a bed of roses, and nobody ever promised you a rose garden, whatever, all the cliches, right? So I don't know about you, and I don't know about you that are listening to this, but in my life, every time I have set an intention to do something different, to go in a new direction, it is in that moment, and it seems like almost every moment, that obstacles come. And obstacles come for me three ways: hard, fast, and continuously. I hate it, but they come. Just boom, boom, boom. And we're continually tested through those obstacles to get to where we want to go. Anything easy, anything worth, what's the phrase? I'm messing up. There's a phrase in my head. You can maybe help me out. It says, anything worth.
It's worthwhile, it wouldn't be easy.
I don't know, something like that. You get it. Anyway, let's move on.
But yeah, no, you're right, because it not only proving to the universe or whoever that, your actions are backed up from your words, but you're actually, by moving through your obstacles, confirming to yourself, and programming your brain to respond to these obstacles that are coming at you. Once you set it in motion, you can't stop. You're like a train. You're just going to plow through it.
That's the power of the law of momentum.
Yeah.
When you have momentum behind you, good luck stopping you. Right.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to back up here a little bit and kind of come back into the story. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you get to say everything you wanted to say?
Oh yeah, no, it's your show, man. I got another question for you, but this is good. This is really good.
I love you, man. I love you. You're awesome. Okay. So now here's the deal. You'd think that when I got out of college, then I'd go and chase my dream as a professional speaker. No, it wasn't the case. So I left school. I had this fancy degree. I'm a computer dude. And I wasn't cutting it. I wasn't making it. I couldn't get a job. There's a whole bunch of us, from the same graduating class. The U of A had just graduated their computer engineers kind of, in their class at the same time. And there was just very few jobs in the market. There's a whole bunch of us now. This was in the city of Edmonton, all, trying to get the same 5 jobs, and nobody would hire you if you had experience. But how in the world are you supposed to get experience if nobody hires you? It was crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was working midnight to 8 a.m. at the Western Canada Lottery Corporation as a data entry clerk, because it was the only job I could get on a computer. I hated it. But anyway, my dad phones up one day out of the blue, and he says, "Hey man," I said, "I don't know what you're doing." And he said, "I don't know if you're enjoying what you're doing. And I don't know how much money you're making and whatever." He says, "But I could really use you to come back to Grand Prairie and come back into the family business. One day, my only son, I have 4 sisters, I'm the only boy." He says, "My only boy, one day, I have a dream for you to take this place over. And there's nobody that knows this business any better than I do than you. Why don't you come on back?" And he says, "Whatever it is you're making, I'll double it. I'll double the income that you're making. Come on home, I need you." Well, I was just newly married, and we knew that we were pregnant. I couldn't hardly make ends meet. So what are you going to do? I guess we're going to go back to Grand Prairie, and we're going to get back in I'm going to go back in the oil field with my dad. We'll make some quick oil field money. Now, don't tell Dad, but we'll only go to Grand Prairie for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and we'll save it. And then we'll go back to the city, and we'll start a family. Now, isn't that everybody? We're just going to go to the oil field for like a year and a half too, and then we're going to, we'll do that, right? And then 42 years later, I'm still here, right? And so anyway, I come and I move, my new bride to Grand Prairie, and we start our little family, and I'm working with my dad. And it was we moved to Grand Prairie January 1st of 1989. So now let's move forward. And I worked with my dad right up to 1996. And the writing became clearer and clearer on the wall that this is the expectation, that I was going to take this business over. Mm-hmm. And Dad's going to retire, and this is going to be my living. This is going to be my life. This is going to be what I do. This is going to be me. And I began to just get sick to my stomach. And I can't do this. This isn't my life. This isn't my call. This isn't my dream. This isn't what I want to do. Yeah. And so I did something very, very hard. I went to work kind of the next day, and I walked into the shop to my dad, and I said, "Here's my resignation. I'm leaving the family business. See, Dad, this is your dream for me. This isn't my dream for me. This is what you want for me. I don't want this." And I left. And that put a real strain on an already strained relationship. Now catch this though, Keem. You see, something really important happened right here. Now I'm at the crossroads. See, I've left this behind. I've made a decision, and I cut that off. And I mean, now you would think, gosh, isn't this the logical place where now you can go in this direction, Al, and chase that dream that you've had ever since you were, you've had this dream for 40 years, I guess at the time, 30 years or whatever it was, I don't know, to be a professional communicator and a motivational speaker. Now you can go do it. Now catch this, people, catch this. But I let my fears and my worries and my doubts and my anxieties get the best of me. See, we all have that. We all have that. And I began to doubt. And I remember I was thinking, well, how in the world am I going to go from, welder chasing down the pipeline oil field guy to a motivational speaker? What am I going to have? What am I going to say? Who's going to listen to me? What credibility do I have? How do I even start? How do I market? I don't know. I couldn't answer anything. But remember what I said before? If you already know how to do what you want to do, it's not a big enough goal. That's right. This was a worthy goal for me. I didn't know how to do any of it. But here's the thing. Like I say this very purposefully. Catch this. Like so many people that have gone before me, and unfortunately so many people that will come behind me, I let my fears, my worries, my doubts, my anxieties stop me from moving in the direction of my dream. Mm-hmm. And I shrunk back into safety. And I say that purposely. You see, and there's a phrase that one of my mentors taught me early in my speaking career, and he says this, when fear steps in, logic leaves. Yeah. And I was scared spitless. How in the world am I going to pay the mortgage? And how in the world am I going to put food on the table? And how in the world am I going to... My dad taught me how to be exceptionally good at what I did. And for a period of time, I was the youngest senior radiographer in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very good at what I did. My skill set was high, but it was a learned skill set. But it had nothing to do with my talents, my abilities, and my gifts and my strengths. I was working totally outside of this zone.
Right.
And I hated it. Now catch this. And because I let my fears get the best of me, my worries, my doubts, I began to rationalize my dream away.
Mm-hmm.
We do that, don't we? We reason it away. And so I thought, this is all I know how to do. I can't go back into the computer industry. I never really got into the computer industry, and it was a struggle to get through it. And umpteen years have already gone by, and the computer industry's left me behind. I mean, they're using languages that I don't know how to program in anymore, and so I can't go there, and I don't know how to go there, and I'm freaked out and worried. And so this is all I know to do. So I'm going to stay hunker down here in the safe zone, right? We call this living in the comfort zone. And I say this very tangibly and purposefully, that it might be the most comfortable place to be, but Akeem, it's the most dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
And it'll kill us.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, this is what I know how to do. I'm very, very good at it. But my dad and I had very different opinions of how to do business, mm-hmm. and how to treat clients, and how to get clients, and how to treat vendors, and how to treat employees, and all these sorts of things. And so my pride also wouldn't let me go back to the family business, because I just didn't want that business. I didn't want that name. I didn't want, and it sounds bad for people that might know what that is, you know. And so I did the next best thing that I thought I could do. It was logical. And so I started my own company doing the same thing, and I became my dad's biggest competitor for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. If that doesn't make Christmas awkward, I don't know what does, man. You know?
I'm learning a lot about you right now. This is good.
Yeah. And so I went to the lawyers, and I went to the accountant, and I went to the bank, and I got business all set up, and I, went out, and I ended up doing the same thing that my dad was doing. Now I have my own business doing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm working harder, and I'm working longer, and I'm working further away, and I'm working more often, and I'm, away from homework, because now I'm not just working for wages, I'm working for myself. I've taken on everything. Yeah. But the business started to boom, and the business started to grow. And I went from 1 truck to 2 trucks, from 2 trucks to 3 trucks, from 3 trucks to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 60, and I grew that thing well over the course of, I ran it for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And then one day I had a real bad health crisis breakdown, Akeem. So we're going to fast forward now. We're going to put the story on fast forward. He's like, thankfully, finally. So now we're going to go all the way from 2006, when I started that company, to all the way to 2005. Okay, 9 years later. And one day I'm sitting at my desk, and I just got off the telephone. I do that because, we had the old phones, and I got off the phone with an oil field consultant. I was just taking down all the directions that one of my crews needed to go on this job and do this job. And so I take this piece of paper, and I get up out of my chair, and I walk down the hall of the office building we were in, and I walk past the photocopy room, and I remember there's a couple of guys in there doing some paperwork, and the next thing was just lights out. It was just lights out for Al. That was it. Oh. I hit the floor. I felt good. I didn't know no symptoms of anything, and just boom, it was lights out. And when I say lights out, Akeem, it was lights out. No eyesight, completely blind. Wow. And I'm laying on the floor, and I can't move. I can't roll over. I can't pick myself up. I can't get up. I can't anything.
But still aware. Like you could still.
I could hear what was going on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I could hear a couple of the guys, the guys from the photogram. Oh my God! Hey boss, are you okay? And I could hear them kind of coming my way. But I had my stomach was just nauseous. I thought I was going to throw up, and I had this bizarre buzzing in my brain, kind of like the buzz you used to get when you go to those college parties. But and that was it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder what happened. I must have got some really weird flu. I must have the flu, something really bad. You think I'd have a stroke or a heart attack or something, but no, I'm thinking, I must have got the flu. And so I said to my guys, I said, hey, just take me back to my office and put me in my chair. And so they literally drugged me down the hall, because I couldn't walk. And they drugged me down the hall, and they stuck me in my chair. And then I just rolled out of my chair and flopped on the floor. And I said, just leave me here for a while.
Yeah.
And so, I was at the time, I was kind of that boss that you do as I say, or I'm going to get mad at you. So they just left me there and closed the door. And I laid there on the floor in my office in the dark for I don't know how long. Not that it was dark, but I couldn't see anything. And I began to talk to myself, Akeem. It's going to be okay, Al. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to get out of this. It's just hang on. And I kind of talked to myself for a while, until I kind of thought maybe I felt better. And I tried to climb back up in my chair, and I couldn't do it. But I felt a little bit strong. I mean, eventually I could get up on my hands and my hands and knees. And I crawled my way out the office, and I crawled down the hall, and I crawled past my secretary's office, and and I crawled out the front door and crossed the gravel parking lot and climbed into my pickup and drove home. And gosh, it was like a week or so. I laid in bed, couldn't do anything. My eyesight came back, but it was obviously, so I could see where I was going driving home. But my eyesight was blurry, was unfocused. Remember, you take those old movie projectors and you kind of turn the focus knob, and the picture was, and that's kind of how everything was to look at. I never wore glasses a day in my life before that. And eventually, my wife at the time, she goes, I think we need to take you to the doctor. And so she got me in the car. We went to a walk-in clinic, and it was the one over by the college. And I remember Dr. Lindsay was there, and he took me, and they started doing tests. And man, I got tested for everything, you name it. And they took so much blood out of me. I thought they were opening a blood bank right on the premises. What to see this doctor and that doctor, different opinions for different things. And eventually he says this to me. He says, we can't find anything wrong with you, man. But then he said this. We have documented cases right here at the local hospital of QE2 of healthy, young, strong workaholics who have died from stress. And we think you're next.
Wow. Reality.
So, yeah, reality. So he goes, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to have to do something different. And then I'll never forget these words, Akeem. He says, if you make it, you need to do something different with your life because this one's killing you. You see, and I learned a very valuable lesson. He says this, I want the listeners to hear this, because this includes you. Every single body has a stress threshold. But unfortunately, you don't know what your threshold is until you get there, and then it's too late. Yeah. And once you get there, every body responds differently. This is how mine had decided to respond. For a long time, I lived in a recliner chair with pillows stuffed in me, so I wouldn't roll out of it. And that's where I spent life. It was either in the recliner chair, I ate and slept in the recliner chair, or I was propped up in my bed, and that was it. It took me a long time to be able to get up and walk properly. I remember I was hanging on the walls for a while, and then I had to hang on to the fence line down the yard for, until my health kind of recovered. So anyway, I'm in this health crisis, and I'm thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do? And so, we get the family gathered around, and well, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I thought, the doctor says if I get through this thing, and if I make it, I'm gonna have to do something very different with my life. But I already know what I want to do with my life. I have this dream to be this motivational speaker, and it's been pushed down so far I almost kind of forgot about it. I know what I want to do with my life, and if the good Lord gives me a second chance and I get through this, I'm going to fulfill the destiny that I know that I've been called to do. Yeah. So I picked up the phone and I called my biggest competitor in the province. And although we were competitors, he and I sat on a board together, and I kind of respected the guy, and I respected how he did business. And he was from down in Calgary, and he had offices in different places, and I had my Grand Prairie base, but I had satellite offices in different places. And I phoned him up and I said, John, it's Al. Hey man, I'm out. I'm done. Nobody knows, but I'm giving you first dibs on the company. I know that you want to expand your base up here in the Grand Prairie market. I'm the biggest NDT company there is up here. And you buy me out, man, you got the monopoly. Yeah. He says, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm going to give you a week, John. And if I don't hear from you in a week, or the answer is no, then I'm going to put the company up for sale. But nobody's going to know anything for a week. 4 days later, I get a call from John. I'm coming to see you. And he came to Grand Prairie. And just like the old fairy tale fable stories, we went to a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's or something. I'm not exactly sure. And we got a napkin, and we wrote out a deal on the napkin. And we took the deal to the lawyers and the accountants, and they made it happen. And he bought me out, and he bought every nut and bolt and paper clip in the place, and boom, I was out. Yeah. And my last day in the oil field, I retired out of the oil field on October 31st, 2005, Halloween. So every Halloween, I get an anniversary. Halloween is a good day for me. And I remember, have you ever seen the old movie, The Jerk? I don't know if people are watching the old movie, The Jerk, and he's standing, he's got his pants down, and he's like, all I need is, is this lamp, but all I need is, and I was kind of like that. I didn't have my pants down, but I remember standing in the office, and, John had just taken the company kind of over. It was my last day there, and he says, is there anything that you need and anything that you want? And I remember looking at this laptop. I just bought this laptop, and I said, I think I just want this laptop. And he says, it's all yours, take it. Anything else? I'm like, oh, I have this little portable printer that goes with the laptop. Can I have that too? He's like, take it. So I put that, this is all I need. And I walked out the door and I never looked back, and I went into a new future.
Wow.
And that was it.
That's a good story.
And so that was October of 31st, 2005. Now, I took a number of months off just to get healthy. November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. Yeah, I took 8 months off.
Wow.
I took 8 months off. And I said, I'm not going to answer the door. I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm not going to carry a phone. I'm not going to carry a pager. I'm just going to become part of the furniture for 8 months. Man, I'm just getting a zombie. And my family, I think, really got fed up with me just being on the sofa all the time. But I just wanted to clear my head, and I just wanted to get healthy. And I knew which direction I wanted to go. I've had that dream for a long time, but it took me some time to get excited about it again and get that coming back up again. And now how do I pursue that? What direction am I going to go? And long story short, Akeem, I sent out an application to a number of very large seminar companies. There was 3 in North America and 1 in the UK, and I was accepted by all 4. And so now I had to choose, well, gosh, which one do I go to? You see that? So how I got my start in the speaking industry was I learned how to teach somebody else's seminars, and I paid a fee to have a license to be able to teach those seminars.
Right.
So I ended up going to London, England, and I went to London, England for a stay and became a trained seminar trainer, speaker, and success coach under Bob Proctor. And so his organization at the time was called Bob Proctor Seminars, and it was kind of under the umbrella of his company Life Success. And so I became a certified Bob Proctor seminar trainer under Bob Proctor Seminars, as well as I had a license as a success coach under Life Success Consulting. So I came home and I started my new company, AG Inc. And most people think AG Inc. stands for Alan Goff Incorporated, but it actually stands for Achieving Goals Incorporated. See, here's why I chose them, Akeem. Back when I was still in the oil field, and the first 4 years was going really great, and I was expanding, and I was putting more trucks on, and I think I was really somebody. Look at me. I'm a successful dude. I mean, look at my business. It's growing. It's expanding. And by outward experience, visual, somebody might go, yeah, that Al Goff, he's a real good businessman. Look at him go. But I got to be honest with you, I was just in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I was in Grand Prairie. I got successful like 90% of the people out here. I don't mean to step on toes, but most people are successful in spite of themselves, because we're kind of this great bubble we've been in for decades here. And I was just in the right place at the right time, and I got successful. But then I didn't know how to mimic that success. I didn't know any success that I got. I didn't know how I got it. I just kind of fluked. Mm-hmm. But any goal that I tried to really set for myself, and okay, I want to achieve this number this year. I want to achieve this number this quarter. I want to gain this much market share. I want, I don't care what. And I got so frustrated, Akeem. I thought, how do I actually succeed with purpose? Mm-hmm. Now I just got a thing on here that says my internet connection is unstable.
It's a little shaky, but it's back. Okay.
Maybe it's like my mind. I'm unstable.
No, we're good.
So I hope it's okay to tell this story. I hope the listeners are really getting something from this. Yeah, so, where was I? See my unstable mind. Anyway, so I went on a journey. I began for one of the first times in my life to go on a purposed journey of growth.
Right.
And I thought, who can teach me how to succeed with purpose and with regular intention? Nobody had taught me that. See, when I went to school and I went through the whole Alberta curriculum and all those years, and I went to college and I went to university, nobody taught me about goals. Nobody taught me about success. Nobody taught me how to achieve that which I wanted successfully with purpose, and do that over and over and over and over again. And so I say, for the first time, I did something I'd never even done while I was in college or university. I opened a book and I began to read. And I read everything from A to Z, right? From Anthony Robbins to Zig Ziglar and everything in between. And nothing really stuck. But I got a hold of an old cassette album. Do you remember what cassette albums are? Remember, you get those big kind of binder things. You open up the plastic and it cracks there, and you got like 12 cassettes and a workbook. Anyway, I got a hold of one of these, and it was The Goal Achiever by Bob Proctor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I began to plug the old cassettes into the truck, and I'd listen to them. And of course, we're back into again, here we are back in the mid 90s. And so we still had cassette decks in the truck, and I began to listen. And I got to tell you, I wore that whole album out. I wore it out, and I did the workbook. And I thought, this guy, he challenged everything that I thought I knew about goals and achievement and success. Right. And I realized that everything that I actually knew that was right about goals and achievement and success, I could write on the back space of a postage stamp.
Yeah.
And most people are like that. If they really wrote down what they knew to be actually accurate and true, that actually worked, we'd fill up the back space of a postage stamp and we'd be done.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see, the goals should be smart, and I should put them on the fridge, and then we're stuck. Right? And so when I came time to decide where I was going to go, I decided to go to Bob Proctor Seminars on Life Success, because it was his program that changed everything for me.
Right.
I excelled very well in business after that, and grew that company. And so when I sold the company, it was a good company. It was a great company. Had multiple different dimensions and divisions to it and locations to it. Why? Because somebody finally taught me how to achieve the goals that I set for myself in a very tangible, intentional, and purposeful way, with a system that I can replicate over and over and over again. And here's what Bob Proctor said to me. Here's what he taught me. And because of him being a personal mentor of mine for so long, I've been able to replicate. And that was this. He says, I don't care how big or ridiculous. No, how does he say it? He says, I can teach you how to achieve 100% of every goal you'll ever want to set, regardless of how big you or ridiculous you or anybody else thinks it is, in likely less than half the time that you think you can. And I thought the guy was nuts. But I got to tell you, when I left the oil field and I went and I took the training in London and I came back and I decided, this is what I want to teach people, because it helped me change my business and it helped me change so many different things. And it finally put me on track to have a systemized way to do exactly what he said. And that was achieve 100% of every goal I ever want to achieve, regardless of how big or ridiculous anybody else ever thought it was, in about half the time that I ever thought that I could. And I could do that over again and over again and over again and over again. So I said, I want to teach people how to achieve their goals. And I thought, okay, I need a company name that's going to get people to know that I'm out there to help them achieve their goals. I wonder what it could be. I don't know what I could call my
Achieve goals.
Somebody says, why don't you just call it Achieving Goals? I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. And then I wrote it down, Achieving Goals. I go, it's AG. Alan Goff, oh my God, it's meant to be, right? And so, so back to the second question you ever asked me, how did I get into this? That's how I did it. I did it. And so because I had this license to do the 5 Success Series seminars from Bob Proctor Seminars and work as a life success coach, I came back to Grand Prairie. I began to just put on seminars. And I would phone up the hotel. I'd phone up, whatever, like the Pomeroy, and I'd say, hey, I want to do a seminar on, I'd pick a day on the calendar. Yeah. And I go, great. How big of a room do you want? I'm like, I don't know. Let's put 50 people in the room, maybe. I don't know. And then I'd have to work my tail off to market it and get bums in the seats. And then I'd show up early and I'd set up the room. Then I'd teach the seminar all day long. And then because I was affiliated with an organization and a name and a brand, I had their products to sell at the back of the room. So I'd run to the back of the room and I'd sell the product. And then I'd tear the room down and go, I want to be exhausted. I did that for a long time. Yeah. And that's how I got started in the industry. And then as I got good at teaching the seminar in different segments of the seminars, then I could turn those into really great 45-minute, 60-minute segments that I turn into keynotes. And I began to market myself primarily to the associations of Canada and also through the US and market myself then as a keynoter. And so I started out teaching seminars that I had license to do, which I still carry that license to this day. They're life-changing seminars, and I believe in them wholeheartedly. And I've watched people and have helped people change their business and their lives because of it. Yeah. And there's nothing better in the world to know that I'm fulfilling the call and the destiny that my life was designed for. It's fantastic. So I started out, that's how I started out in the industry. Remember I said as a pipeline guy, how in the world am I ever going to get started? What am I going to say? Who's going to listen? What credibility do I have? Now I had all of it. Mm-hmm. I had something very worthwhile to say, and I knew I could stand behind it because I took that program and I implemented it in my own life and I got the success I was looking for. And I could replicate it. So I could stand behind it and put my name on it, my stamp on, my reputation on it. And so now I had material, I had physical product to sell. I had a brand name to back me up, and I had credibility. I just had to come home and work my tail off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing seminars and workshops, and then I did one in Edmonton, and I did one in Red Deer, and I'd come, Calgary, and I'd come back and kind of do the circuit once a quarter or a couple of times a year. And then because I got really great at being able to take some great sections of those and turn them into keynotes, and I began to market myself as a keynoter. And so now I was a seminar trainer, and I was a seminar speaker, and I was a keynoter. And then I would get people phone me, and they would say things, or I shouldn't say phone, they mostly email, and they might say something like this: "Hey, Al, I saw you. I attended this conference, or I attended this event, and you were a speaker there, and I really liked your style. You engage differently than everybody else, and you've got a little different take on the subject anyways. And would you come into my company? Would you come into our organization? And would you teach my leadership team? Would you teach my management team? Would you teach my sales team?" And I got to be honest with you, I was kind of arrogant and cocky in those years. And so part of me, I don't want to be a corporate trainer. Everybody and their dog is a corporate trainer. I'm better than that, right? I don't want to be, come on, I'm a keynoter, right? And so, but then after a while, somebody hit me between the eyes of the Louisville Slugger and said, "Hey man, smarten up. If that's where the value is to the client, why would you ignore the value? Why would you withhold that if that's where the value is?"
Mm-hmm.
And so reluctantly, I began to go and do corporate training in-house for corporations and organizations, usually who hired me because they would see me speak on the platform.
Yeah.
And see, that's the whole key in this industry. If you're not good on the platform, you're gonna have a very hard time making it. You got to get good. And remember, now I was working not in a skill set that I learned. Now I was operating in my gifts and talents and abilities, my natural God-given gifts and talents and abilities in my strength zone. Mm-hmm. And it became very, very natural for me. You put me in front of a big audience, I'm happy man. The bigger the audience, the more relaxed I am. The bigger the audience, the better job I do. The bigger the audience, the better the impact. And you put me in smaller crowds, and that's where I get nervous. Most people get nervous on big crowds and big audiences, and you put me in front of the big audience, and I'm a happy guy. And so I began to do corporate training. Now, here's where the coaching came in. You see, I would spend maybe a day or 2 or 3 at your organization, usually never more than 2 or 3, because that's really all it takes. And I pour my heart and my soul into you and your people. And it's usually in a boardroom, and there might be in a large organization, there might be as many as 50, but usually there's a whole lot less than that. And I pour everything that I have into you and your team, and then I go away. And I come back, and I call you up, not come back, but I call you back up, Akeem, maybe in about 6 or 8 weeks, and I say, "Hey, Akeem, it's Al. Hey, tell me, how's it going with you and your team there, unpacking and implementing all the material that I came and unpacked for you during that training time that I came?" Mm-hmm. Now, if you were normal, like most people, average, I guess I would say, what would you say back to me?
More than likely, the average person hasn't done anything.
You're not only good looking, but you're smart too. And they would do that. They would say, "Oh yeah, well, we haven't really gotten around to it," or we kind of haven't really taken a shot at it, or "Yeah, we tried it, it kind of didn't really work," and right. And so, like so many people, you go to the conference, you go to the seminar, you go to the workshop, you watch the video, you read the book, you whatever, you're highlighting even, and you're underlining and all these things, and then you come home and you put it in the drawer and you forget about it. You see, we've only got 72 hours. Cuckoo clock. Science and psychology tells us we've only got 72 hours to implement something new after we've learned it, or we don't.
Yeah. And
so what was happening now, these leaders, these CEOs, these business owners, they'd come from the training, or they'd come from whatever, and then they go, "Oh, this was such good information." I mean, they saw value to bring me in and pay the money, no problem. But then I had the problem with there's no ROI. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if you're not implementing what you brought me to teach you and what you learned, then that was a waste of my time and yours, and it was a waste of your money.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hardly sleep at night about it. I was like, I got a problem with that. And so why is it that they're not implementing? Well, they go back to work the next day, and the phone's ringing, and they got, people issues, and they got client issues, and their stresses, and everything's going on 100 miles an hour, and those 72 hours go by, and they haven't figured out how to get started. Or they take a shot at it. They go, "Well, now how do I implement this for me in my business in this situation? On a Wednesday at 3 p.m. I don't know how to do that." And so that's where coaching, I realized, oh, you see, people have a good intent to take this and turn it into this, but they don't know how to do that. They don't know. They go, "It sounds good in theory." So, but I don't know how to do it in my life. How do I do it in my life with my people and my circumstances in this situation? In other words, that's where coaching comes in.
Mm-hmm.
See, I had a bad attitude about coaching for a long time because everybody and their dog and their grandmother thinks they're a coach and they can and everyone's a coach. I don't want to be in that circle. And there's a lot of people out there that coach effectively, and there's a lot of people that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And in my life, I don't want, the world does not need another average anything. If I'm going to be a speaker, I'm going to be the best speaker that I possibly can. If I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to be the best damn coach I possibly can. The world needs the best me, not an average me. And so I hesitated to become a corporate trainer because I didn't just want to be blended with the average. And I didn't want to be a coach because I didn't want to be just this average guy. I loved keynoting.
Yeah.
But I realized to keynote, then I can inspire vision and intent, but then people need help with that. So that's corporate training, and then coaching. Coaching closes the gap between intention and reality. So if you look on my website and you see my business card or anything of my marketing, you see my tagline, it says, turn intent into reality. And that's what I do. I help people turn their intent into reality. And most people have a really good intent to achieve this and go after that and succeed at this and get their business to this level or whatever. And they never get there. Or if they do get there, it takes them a heck of a lot longer than they ever intended to get there. And they've had to, it takes them not just more time, but more money and effort and energy and resources to get there. And so I come in and I close up that gap. And I truly, truly believe, and I put my name and my reputation on it. Just like Bob said to me, and Bob walked me through personal, mentored me for a solid year. I can show you how to achieve 100% of every goal you'll ever set, regardless, no matter how big or ridiculous you or anybody else thinks it is, in about half the time that you think you can. Yeah. And he's right. And he taught me how to do that. And now that's what I spend every day of my life, whether I'm on the platform keynoting or whether I'm, filling in the middle somewhere in somebody's seminar, whether I'm putting on one of my own seminars or workshops, or I'm on site at a location doing corporate training for a private client, or I'm coaching someone one-on-one or in a team format or whatever. That's what I do. And I spend every day of my life doing it. And I love my life.
That's awesome. There's a lot of nuggets in there. There's a lot of nuggets.
Damn that guy, he talks a lot. Yeah, well, I get paid to.
It's good. It's sometimes, but you know what? I feel like people need a little bit of motivation right now, given the situation. And you talked a lot about, overcoming your obstacles. You've had some in your life, as we
still
all
do.
You still do. Absolutely. Setting goals. You've also talked about how, and I wanted to interject there too, that not just that the belief that you have in the programs that you're able to offer is there's a conviction behind it because you were using those programs yourself.
Yes.
Prior to stepping into this, right? So,
yeah.
And I think that's so important too. People understand, like, it is that action behind words is like the biggest thing, I think,
yeah.
for me.
Oh yeah.
It's not even just business. It's family life. It's relationships. It's anything, right? Even with your health.
Yeah.
So
you see, I learned from some of the world's best keynoters to be a brilliant keynoter. And it's going to sound arrogant and cocky for me to say, but you put me on a platform in front of thousands of people, and I'm probably one of the best you'll ever see. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not arrogant and cocky. I'm just confident in my competence, because I've also trained and coached and mentored under some of the world's best. Mm-hmm. And so, but then when I moved into corporate training, and then I would call you up and say, hey, how's it going? You'd say, yeah, I don't know, we haven't done anything. I thought I was just the world's lousiest corporate trainer. Like, man, I must really suck. I mean, if the client can't implement it, oh man, I got to be terrible. And I don't want to do this if I'm terrible. And so I spent tons of money, and I went out there and got world-class personal training. I don't go to seminars with everybody else and go sit there and learn. I go one-on-one. And I spent tons of money going to some fantastic, brilliant, best in the world people to learn how to become a better and the best corporate trainer that I can. And I saw the results of that. And then now I was going to be a coach, because if I truly am concerned about the ROI for the client, to getting that ROI as high as possible, I need to coach. Mm-hmm. I have to coach.
Yeah.
But I've never coached. I don't know how to coach. Where am I going to go? And so I went to one of the best coaches in the world, and I went and I went to Orlando, Florida, and was personally trained and personally coached and personally mentored, and still am to this day. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 9 years later, under the great legendary leadership guru, John Maxwell.
Oh,
And
yeah. Okay. I was
yeah,
going to ask who.
and he's got a very, very small faculty. And there's a guy who is just one of the highest ranking coaches, executive coaches in the world. He comes out of the UK. His name is Christian Simpson. He is my personal coaching coach.
Yeah. My favorite book from him is 360-Degree Leadership.
And so I still have coaches. I still have mentors. I believe every good coach has to have a coach. Otherwise, they're just a fake, phony, and a fraud. But I have spent lots of time and lots of dollars learning from the best so that I can be the best.
Right.
And I sound arrogant and cocky to some. People say I got a big inflated ego and I'm, whatever. I'm just confident in my competence because I've put the investment of time and dollars and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I know the value that I can bring to my clients. One of the reasons I know that, because I know my value.
Right on. Of course, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you've got a lot going on, and with this situation, you've already overcome so many different obstacles. And I'm sure for anybody listening to this, that they've hopefully been able to pick up on a lot of the nuggets that I was paying attention to as well. And so given that in this current climate with COVID-19, I'm sure that it's also affecting your business, especially if you're used to working one-on-one with business owners or, heads of corporations and whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the next question would be, how has COVID affected, outside of the obvious, how has it affected your business?
Yeah.
What are you doing about it? Yeah.
Now you take a guy who has made his living for the last going on 15 years now as a motivational speaker. So where am I? I'm in a room with thousands of people. That went away.
Yeah.
Gone, right? And you go, oh, I was putting on some of my own seminars and workshops. Guess what? That went away.
Mm-hmm.
And or I'm being invited to come into an organization to spend some time on site with with their leadership team or executive team or sales team, whatever. And so, you're in a room with more than 5 people.
Yeah.
That went away.
Of course.
Like, well, I can't work.
Yeah.
However, so thankfully, due to, there's the telephone. We always had that. And we have things like this, Skype. Yeah, I can coach. I can coach anybody from anywhere in the world, And so most of my business nowadays, especially through this COVID crisis, is coaching. It's right here, one-on-one. Or because I can see you can put your team in the room, but kind of hard to get a team in the room. You can't have more than 5 people in there right now. So most of my business is it's just this, one-on-one, and it's either in front of the video camera or it's over the phone. I had a company reach out to me recently, and they found me. I didn't find them. And they're out of San Francisco. And what they do is they hook up startup businesses, everything from startups to large multinationals and for-profit and nonprofit, who need directors and board of advisors and coaches, consultants and coaches. And they connect the need to the person who can fulfill the need. And they came to me and said, hey, we're booming now through this crisis. We're going crazy. Businesses are still starting up, and rightly so, they should, because there's going to be a lot of success to be had during this time. And people need good advice. They need directors. They need board of advisors. They need coaches and consultants. And so this organization, I've come on board with them, and I get paid. And every time I get connected to an organization, and I'm either going to, and it's all done virtually or over the telephone. It's all virtual. And so that's a big change for me, because my style and my natural inclination is still to be with you. I want to be with you. I want to be in the room with you. I want to be in the room with the audience. I feed off your energy, and you're going to learn better when I'm right there with you, and we can talk it out and we can explain. I just love to be right there. I'm a very social and interactive person. So that all goes away. I have to learn how to do it all now through here. And so it's all coaching. For me, it's coaching, and specifically now because of the COVID crisis, I'm now moving into a lot of work on advisory boards and the like. I'll just leave it there. Yeah.
Right.
But what that does, Akeem, for me is, again, it opens up doors that never would have been there otherwise. So now I'm doing business with companies all around the world that I would never ever known existed before.
Right. And so I guess there's a lesson in that too, that no matter the situation, the circumstance, there's stuff that happens that you're not necessarily prepared for. But as long as you determine, like you said before, you make the decision to succeed, and then back it with action. And these are things that you've done, right? To pivot. And if it means you pivoting your business, you're pivoting your business, but now you're opening yourself up to other opportunities. And when things go back to normal, those opportunities will still be there.
If they go back to normal.
If they do, yeah.
Yeah. Now you said something very interesting there. How do I, wish we could just hit the rewind button so I could go right back to what that was so good right there. There was a really great point you made, and I wanted to kind of capitalize on it, and I kind of lost it there for a second. Do you remember what you said even?
You know what? When it's coming, like, I don't know, sometimes when it's coming from the soul, you don't even really know what you're saying.
I know. All the time I'm in an audience and I say something, somebody goes, "Oh, say that again. Wasn't it one right then?" I'm like, I have no idea what just came out of my mouth. Anyway.
Yeah. So we got the point across, I think.
We get the point across.
Yeah.
But here's what I can guarantee you, and that is this. In times of uncertainty and in times of crisis, which we are definitely in one, it opens the doors of opportunity almost better than in when times are going great. We've got to change our mindset. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You say, when I made my intention that I was going to go this way, if the goal is the right goal and the dream is the right dream, it never changes. The circumstances might change, and the circumstances might force the direction of which you get there and the vehicle that you choose to get there and how you get there and how long you get there. That stuff might all change, likely will. But the goal never changes. The end dream never changes. Yeah. And so people that I see changing the goal or changing, the end goal or changing the dream, like, they didn't know why they wanted that in the first place.
Right.
See, most people fail to get what they want. Number one reason they fail to get what they want because they don't know what they want. Exactly. Yeah. The second reason people don't get what they want, because even if they do know what they want, they don't know why they want it. Mm-hmm. And here's what I can guarantee you. If you even, if you even figure out which are the few, what you want, and but you don't know why you want it, you'll relinquish the dream, and you'll relinquish the goal at the first obstacle, or at least the first one that is tougher than you can handle. Mm-hmm. And that's the number one reason people fail, is that they don't know what they want. And so I ask, how can you ever achieve something if you don't know what you want? It's impossible. Mm-hmm. So they don't get what they want because they don't know what they want, and they usually won't go through the process of work to figure that out. Even if they do, they fail to get what they want because they don't know why they want it. Now, that is so important. You got to know what, but you also got to know why. And I say you got to know why is almost more important than what. Yeah. So the how doesn't matter. If the why is big enough, the how doesn't matter. So you got to know what you want. You got to know why you want it. And then the third reason people fail is lack of focus. Right. They let distractions take them off course. Oh, the COVID virus. Oh my God. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's all consuming, and it's all the media talks about, and it's all over the place. And so us, the business owners and entrepreneurs, we're all going, we're all freaked out, and it takes us off focus of where we want to go. And it doesn't have to. Yes, we have to be aware. Yes, we have to follow some rules. Yes, we might have to change some strategy. But we don't change the end goal. We got to stay focused on that which we want, to the exclusion of all the outside distractions, regardless of what the distractions are, to keep moving in a systematic, successful way to get to where we want to go. The goal, if it's the right goal, the dream, if it's the right dream, should never, ever change. Mm-hmm. The strategy to get there might.
It's interesting for some people that might be struggling right now with this. It might be their opportunity to actually dig deep and find out, like, what is it that they actually truly want and why, like what you're saying. And maybe what they're doing is not the right thing that they should be doing. Yeah. And this could be the opportunity to do something new.
I chuckle at people who, they might be attending one of my seminars or workshops or one of the events, and I'm talking about this, and then they come up to me at the end of the day. Oh, I know my why. I'm like, you don't know your why, man. It's not that easy. Oh, I know exactly. I know my why. I'm like, no, you don't. Go away.
Mhm.
And because here's what I can guarantee you. You know, you sit down and if I was to walk you through process as your coach, and you'd say to me, Al, here's my dream, here's my goal, and here's why I want to get there. Here's why I want. I'm like, okay, can you tell me why? And you tell me why. And I would say, I get that, I understand that, but why that? See, and I'm going to ask you why for every answer you give me. And after about the fourth time, you're going to get stumped. You won't know how to answer that question. Or maybe it's going to take you 5 or 6 times for me to go, oh, I understand why you'd want that, but why do you want that? And after about 4 or 5 or 6 times, you're going to be all pissy at me and angry because I'm poking you and you don't know how to answer those questions. And guess what? If you can't answer all those questions, you don't know your why yet.
Yeah.
And for most people, if you're going to walk through that process, even if you do know what you want, but you got to figure out why you want that, it usually takes people at least a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks, to figure that out.
Mm.
It's hard work, but most people don't want to do the hard work.
Mm.
They're not willing to do the hard work. The late great, I think it was Leland Val Vanderwall, I think, said 2% of people think, 3% of people think they think, and 95% of people would rather die than think.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think he's right. I used to be part of the 95%.
It's a lot of thinking. But you're right.
But here we are in the middle of the COVID crisis. Nobody can go out. Nobody's going anywhere. Businesses are closed, temporarily. You can't go have a coffee. You can't go to the restaurant. You can't go to the movie. You can't go to church. You can't go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, now's the perfect time to take yourself through some process and think. And if you don't know how to do that, message me. I'll help you. We don't even have to be on the clock. Well, I tell people, I'm going to put this out there. If anything resonates with you for this interview that are watching, you go, man, that kind of makes some sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might need some help with that, but I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Well, that's my expertise. I'm an unstuckness guy, right? I'm going to have you get unstuck. If you're at wit's end and you really don't know how to do that, I'll tell you what, if you would actually message me, so this is going to be posted on Facebook, right? You just click on my name or my link or whoever. I don't care what page I'm on, if it's the Alan Goff page, the Achieving Goals with Alan Goff, Coach Al page, or the Alan Goff community page. I don't care which one. You find me. Or go to my website, www.alangoff.ca, and then go to the contact and fill in the little form, or click on any of my social media buttons and send me. I don't care how you find me, just find me. And if you're willing to find me and send me a message, I need some help, I will pay for the first hour of help for you. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your situation. I don't care how many call me. I'll pay for the first hour. It's on me. Yeah. And we'll see if I can get you going, at least in a direction, and get you some unstuck and get you moving. And we can talk about something later if it's applicable.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of business owners right now could use that. So thank you. Thank you for putting that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I'm going to put a nasty caveat again. A lot of people that need to won't do it.
That's also true. Yeah.
It's just the human nature thing.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I don't want to work with people who need me. I want to work with people who want me.
Right.
Because if you only need me, you're going to make the excuses not to do the hard work.
Yeah.
But if you want it bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes.
Well, we need to
I don't care who you are.
In the summer, we need to cut our grass in the summer. You're not necessarily going to do it when your wife tells you, right?
So I'll just make that commitment to you.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're willing, reach me, find me, send me a message, and we'll find a time that works for both of us. And either via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or telephone, I'll invest an hour on my dime with you.
And that's awesome. And that's in line with what I told you before. What I really like what you said a couple of days ago online was, this is not time to do business. It's time to add value. And you're adding value to the community. You're adding value to business owners, and that's good. So thank you. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. Was there anything else you wanted to ask me?
No. I think, you know what, I could have, but just through all the storytelling, like you kind of hit all the questions that I had anyways. And hopefully you've hit some of the things that you wanted to focus on as well, and obviously, now we've got something out there that people can benefit from. I feel motivated personally. Thank you for that. I'm extremely motivated with my goals. But I'm sure that other people will feel motivated and get value from this. And that is our goal here today, is just to add value to the community, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so let me put a little extra on that. And it came from my mentor and my coach, John Maxwell. And because his kind of tagline is add value to people. If you know anything about John, add value to people. And he says, if you're going to carry my name, you better damn well add value to people. Because if you can't or won't or don't do that, I don't want you carrying my name. But here's what I learned. I'd come home and I would say, and I was, how do I add value to people? And see, I realized if I assume I know how to add value to you, I'm kind of being arrogant and cocky, because I assume that what adds value to you is what adds value to me. Because if I don't ask you for a thing, well, how do I add value to Akeem? And I go, well, let's see, I'm going to add value to Akeem doing this. Well, that's something that I think I might add value, but it might not be what you value. So I've got to care enough about you first to have a conversation with you to find out what you value. And once you tell me, and I'm going to ask a pile of questions, people tell me all the time, well, good Lord, Al, you ask so many questions. Nobody's ever asked me so many questions. And I said, well, I have to. If I care about you, to find out what you truly value, I have to ask those questions. I ask more questions than anybody else, but I ask the hard questions, and I ask the right questions, and the right amount of questions to get the right information. And once you begin to tell me what you value, now I know how to add value to you. And only then can I add value to you. But here's, you know what I know the secret behind that, Akeem, is?
What's that?
If I don't love you enough, I'll never get there. I won't even start the process. See, I won't even invest the time with you. And as a leader, some leader, they'll never invest the time with their people until they love their people enough first.
Right.
So for me, I can't just add value. I've got to find out what you value so that I can add value. But I'm never even going to start that process until I love you first. And so although I don't mean it in a mushy way, and whatever, we don't talk about that in business much. And a lot of corporate, consultants and coaches won't talk about that kind of thing. And I don't mean love that way. But my philosophy, my coaching philosophy, my speaking philosophy, my profession is the same as my life philosophy. And that is this: love people and add value. Love people and add value. And if I do that, everybody wins.
Amen. Right on. Well, yeah, I think we got her. So
I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
And my water's out, and I'm hot, and the sun's shining through, and it's good. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Thanks for dedicating your time and taking the time out of your day to come on with me and do this interview and give back. I really appreciate it. And man, awesome. This is really good stuff.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for the investment of this time, and thank you for choosing me, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're
Back
welcome.
at you, buddy. Back at you.